And good morning. For me, it's still morning anyway. It's my 11. Great to see everybody come in for today's episode of From Boxes to Butterflies. It's going to be an amazing conversation because I've got someone who she's been in anthologies with me. We've actually been in a coaching program together, so I'm really looking forward to this. And then because we never know what LinkedIn's going to do, I have my phone up and ready to go so I can try and see if I catch any messages that don't show up for me. And the one main announcement I really want to start off with is to talk about an upcoming anthology. It's getting ready to go, and that is the Beyond Boundaries, Thriving in Life's Gray Zone. This anthology is going to start in 2 weeks. It starts on the 1st of February, so you've still got 2 weeks to look it over, kick the tires if you want, but then join this. It's being led by my sis, CJ, Dr. Constance Leland. Nicole is involved with it. So it's like I've got sisters involved. It's an amazing program and project. And on Saturday of this week, I will actually be doing an anthology chapter writing basics class, master class, for those who, it's like you've been bitten by the anthology writing bug, but you're not so sure about how well your writing skills are. And so this is a chance to be able to sit down and I will go over some of the writing basics. We'll talk about ways to choose your focus for the anthology topic, because the topic is there, but how you want to approach it, it's really up to you. It's your story. And that's what I love about anthologies. It's your story. I'll talk a little bit about different writing styles and some chapter writing basics, things to be thinking about, and the way that you want to write that chapter so that it's easy for you to see it, it's easy for someone to edit, all these different aspects that need to be included. So with that, and I see my sis Nicole is here. It's like, Nicole! I'm so excited to bring up this week's guest. Like I said, I've been in programs with her. We've been in a book together because we were in Never Give Up, which was actually the first anthology I signed up for, and the second one I was in that was published. And I'm just going to dive right into this and say, hey, Kimberly.
Hey. Hi, Susanna. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, first of all. I am thrilled to have this opportunity to be a part of From Boxes to Butterflies. I love your central theme of moving out of boxes, moving beyond those boxes. And I know so many folks, including myself, who can relate to that and glean a lot of support as well as wisdom from others about how we move beyond those boxes and shine as our real selves.
Yeah, it's just, for me, and I know so many others, to be told who you are without somebody actually listening to us, because I would think a person knows who they are, unless they're totally confused.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been there. I knew who I was my whole freaking life, but other people tried to tell me otherwise, and it just, it doesn't work. You can't contort yourself to fit in these boxes. And I know you've dealt with this.
Yeah.
So I would love to have you talk a little bit about yourself and kind of how we got to this point, and then we can touch base on the book. I know we were both in Mina's class at the beginning of last year.
January seems so long ago, doesn't it? Just a year.
Well, it's a year.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So, it's interesting that you say you always knew who you were. Because I think perhaps, Susanna, I didn't. But maybe it wasn't that I didn't, but I was the person who someone was always telling who to be,
Hmm.
and I would try to be most times what they said I should be. And so I'm thinking though, of my generation of first cousins, I'm the only one, with the exception of one, who went to university, and most of us did, who's not an engineer. Now, my dad's an engineer, my uncle is an engineer. I was just thinking this morning, I was thinking about this when I was at the university. I'm in my familial home state now, which is Virginia. Raised as a New Jersey girl. I don't talk like that anymore, but I'm from New Jersey, y'all. You guys, I'm from Jersey, okay? And but I'm here in this familial state of Virginia. And so when I got to the university that recruited me about 20 years ago, here in Virginia, I had young cousins who were on the campus. And I was thinking this morning, oh, several of them were engineers too. It's like a family thing. Well,
Right.
in high school, good Catholic girls' school, Kimberly decided not to become an engineer. And my dad was not a happy person. He was not happy. He said he said to me, why wouldn't you want to be an engineer? Nothing about, let's talk about it, Kimberly. Let me hear your reasons. Why wouldn't you want to be an engineer? Howard, that was my uncle, can get you in any school in the United States. My uncle was at Notre Dame, and his job was to get people of color into engineering, and he would recruit you and put you into different places. And then my dad had this idea I should be a journalist. Now I'm going to tell my dad this. I now think about, maybe my dad was onto something, because one of my most favorite activities and things I do a lot is writing. But I was like,
Right.
oh, you want me to be a journalist, a poor journalist. But I wanted not to be an engineer because I thought that I like to be around people. And I didn't know anything about jobs in engineering where you would be around people. They could have told me about civic engineering. I have a cousin who's in an industrial psychology type engineering, but I only knew mechanical, electrical, and chemical. And I was like, that's not for me. But so I went against dad, and it was very, very uncomfortable. I went against the family. I went against the church. I was the keynote speaker at church in June. They did this graduation thing for high school and college. And you got to stand at the door with the minister. And when everyone came out, people even said things to me because I wanted to be a nurse. Why would you want to be a nurse? Is your father okay with that? A smart girl like you need to be a nurse? So I also got the message nursing wasn't something you should be proud about. But I was going to go against people and do it anyway. So, first time I got into nursing school after my freshman year, a lot of people didn't get in after their freshman year at The Ohio State University. I did. A lot of my friends should have been a senior, and now they were a sophomore in nursing. I called home. Dad, I got into nursing. Okay. When I got my first faculty job in a university in nursing, I called home. Dad, I got a job at Case. I got a job at Case Western. Case, big time nursing place, school, was number 5 in the world then. He said to me, oh, let me know when you're ready to go to law school. I got a friend over there. Okay, so I was never quite right. I was never quite who I should be. And I also got that message in my place of work, particularly when I was recruited and came to the school here in New Jersey. I mean, in Virginia. I had a reputation already. I had gotten the laws changed in the state that I lived in so that advanced practice nurses could see patients directly and prescribe drugs. And so I had a reputation and had been inducted at an early age into an academy because of that. They wanted me, they mentored me, but when I came, were not used to people who looked like me, who were my age and such, who were who I was. And so it just wasn't good. There were some red flags. The mentor they gave me left 3 weeks before I got here. People don't usually leave without notice from an academic job like that. And she was the other person of color. Lots and lots of flags. I was there a few weeks. They came and sat down, the head of the department, and said, "Oh, well, what are you going to teach next summer?" And I'm still reeling from being in this place that was not like what I was used to at all. I was like, "Work? It's September. Do next summer." So I looked. I said, "Well, I don't know." And she said, "Oh, basically, you're too good to work in the summer." And I was like, "Oh no, I always work in the summer, except for the summer I got married. I work and I wanted to say, I'm your best worker. I work all the time. I can outwork anybody." And that's what I thought I should do. And Jinduso on LinkedIn, and Jinduso, sometime this week, I think, posted about being the pick-me employee. Are you the pick-me employee? I was the pick-me employee. That's the person is, give me more to do. I'll do it. I can do it. Yeah. And so I got all these messages about I didn't fit, but I wanted to fit. So I said, it's not going to matter. I'm just going to do more and more and they're going to accept me. They're going to know that I am really good. You know, and so, there was those kind of things. When I first got here, I'd been here about 3 months. And we had to go to DC to this big meeting. And I was really worried about even being in the car with them, because there was one woman who people began to say to me over the years, "Oh, Kimberly, she's threatened by you." Well, it doesn't matter if a person is threatened by you if they have power and they're always doing things to create a negative environment for you and doing, we use the word bully a lot, but that's what it was. But I didn't want to be in the car with them. And I called my former dean. I was standing outside crying. I realized when I was thinking about this, I did a lot of crying in different spaces, usually by myself, but I called my former dean and she was like, "Come back. You don't get on up here." But I was always, "No, I don't give up. I never give up. So I'm not going back because I didn't come here for career. I've been at Vanderbilt, Ohio State, and Case Western. This is nothing like that. If I needed a career, I wouldn't come here." This a little bit of arrogance too. But they're not going to drive me away. They're not going to drive me out. I'm going to fit in the box so that they say, "Wow, she is great." I went to that, and the dean before my former dean sat down with me at a dinner on Saturday night. And I think the dinners cost, it was almost 20 years ago, but I think they cost $150. I don't remember what we had, because she began to speak to me and she told me about another young woman. And I said, "Well, why would she do that?" And she said, "Kimberly, that's what people are saying about you. Why would you come to a place like that? Why would you go to a place like that?" And she said something to me that got me to crying in a public space. Everybody's at this big round table. It's a big banquet hall. And I'm sitting here and she's talking to me quietly and tears are rolling. And what she said is, "Kimberly, they use you. Everybody uses you because you can do it." She said, "It's almost like you got the Midas touch." No, it's not the Midas touch. It's that I'll outwork everyone and I'm not afraid of change. But it's also, will they let me be in the box? And so at my new school here in Virginia, I thought about it today. I was the first everything. I was the first director of the global and community initiatives. I was the first director of the new doctoral program. I was the first associate chair. They never had that role in the college, in the school. Because if there was something new, people didn't really necessarily glean to it or like it. There weren't many resources. And you had to convince people to get on board. and you had to work real hard. Maybe you have to do everything at first until there's success.
Right.
Get Kimberly, get Kat, because she's going to do it. And then there was always having to establish my credibility with even the students at first. You walk into a room, well, who are you? They don't assume you're the faculty woman, the person. After a while, that went away some because the students used to try to get in my classes. Or they also, if there were students having trouble, never taught undergraduates except for my last semester there. They'd meet me in the hallway or come to my office when I was associate chair and want me to talk with them, because I could understand not being in the box. When the faculty told me this is a box issue, when the faculty would come to my office when I was associate chair, that's the next in charge of the school,
Mm-hmm.
and they were going to complain about a student. They had a student issue. I started playing a game. I almost always knew the student was going to be different from what was considered to be good in the box in some way. The student was going to be a man. The student was going to be older. The student was going to have another degree, because these were mostly undergraduate faculty before they had a nursing degree. The student was going to be a person of color. We don't have, so I saw someone, Terry said, we don't have enough women of color in nursing nor in the law fields. And she created a mentoring program for Latina students. Absolutamente, Terry, absolutamente. And so that box, but I work real hard to be in the box, Susanna. I could go on and on about the ways I work to be in the box. And there were good things. I got support in the greater university because I needed to be outside of my school a lot of times and like one woman came over from the School of Arts and Letters, the College of Arts and Letters, and she said, I got this project. I heard that you're willing to collaborate with people. Became one of my best collaborators and friends. And we did this thing on the human papilloma virus in little 11-year-old girls, because in Virginia, we decided we would mandate it for girls to go to school in the 6th grade. But she was like, I heard you do things. You were willing to talk to people outside of your specialty and that kind of stuff. I also saw that I had a mission to work with the students. Yeah, I had been at Ohio State as a student. First job was at Vanderbilt, was at Case Western, one of the biggest endowments in the world. Vandy is the Harvard of the South. We're at the Harvard of the South. And when I got to the school in Virginia, it's considered a metropolitan or cosmopolitan school, more people of color, more military people than I have ever seen in my life on a college campus. And the students didn't write that well. I was kind of surprised. I soon learned this is my mission. This is why this is why I'm here. I used to say to people, if I didn't come here, I wouldn't know how real people live. That's why I'm here. Mm-hmm. So it became my job to help others, to mentor others, to help them grow personally and professionally. And that's where I got my fulfillment. I was getting gleams of that all along. Even when I was considered an early career faculty, I used to mentor others. And then there was a student. So that's where I was getting my bennies, my fulfillment, my feelings. I didn't know, but I was like, that's where I get it. And the weather's good, honey. It was 25 degrees this morning, which is shocking for us in coastal Virginia, but the sun is shining. I walked to the gym with a bright, bright sunshine that I never got in the Midwest. So there were good things. I had a good dean in 2014. That's why I'm coaching today. 2014, good dean said to me, you're an overworker. I was like, what is she talking? An overworker? She says that like it's bad. Well, in nursing and in the health sciences, overworking is good. So I never had that concept. For my father, being an overworker, that's the best thing you can be. She said she gifted me a coach. I didn't pay for it. She paid for it. She also giving me something to do for all 5 schools in the college, because I was now in the dean's office as a new assistant dean, where I had to really change our world. And people were like, Kat, this one guy from physical therapy, how could you do this to us? People said things like that to me all the time, because this is a whole new initiative. Everybody has to get in line. Our accreditations depend on it. And they put me in charge of it. But she said, you need the support. You seem to have been isolated. You seem to be, she saw all these things. She's a fabulous woman. And she got me a coach. So that's how I began to get out of that box, Susanna.
And being in those boxes is, I like so much of your story, because there's getting out of the box. There's why we got stuck in the box in the first place. And there's actually a lot of similarities in our story. The only difference really being that I knew who I was before my dad could interfere. And yours is just a little bit different, where it's like he got you before you knew who you were.
Yeah.
And off to the races.
Yeah.
But then everything that we've gone through, and this is one of the things I love to talk about, is the butterfly effect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the butterfly effect as written by Ray Bradbury in A Sound of Thunder, a time travel story. Because everything that we went through is what made us who we are now. It's what got us to where we are now. And if you were to change anything of your past, we probably wouldn't be talking right now.
Mm-hmm.
You would be a whole different person. And if you saw who that person was right now, it's like a coin flip if you would even like them or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I so agree. It's like you have to be in the chrysalis and all the things you go through as the caterpillar,
Mm-hmm.
in order to emerge into this whole new being, this butterfly.
And what's really beautiful about that is you can't go back. And once you've emerged from that cocoon, from that chrysalis, there's no going back.
Mm-hmm.
Because your trajectory is going right where it's supposed to go. It's like looking at what are the different paths. You're looking at different paths that you're supposed to be on. You're following a path, but in the present, if you can leave the past alone, in the present, you get to choose what the next step is going to be and where you're going to go. Are you going to keep going down a certain path for whatever reason and then switch, or is it time to switch?
Yeah. Yeah. And also sometimes I guess, with the caterpillar, there's a certain amount of time you have to be in there. You're developing. I don't know what's going on in that chrysalis, but for some of us, we keep still trying to be the caterpillar and in the box, like me. And I was thinking, and I realized that it took some ugliness, some ugly things happening to help to push me to say, this whole thing, your whole strategy of fitting into the box and being the best in the box you can absolutely be. And if you keep shining in the box, but not overshining, but shining from the box, you'll be accepted. You'll be like, yes. Now, and that is not to say, oh, I got so many good colleagues in my field and in other fields. Many of the current faculty who are at that school now were my students. If they weren't my students, they still came to on the phone or in my office, or they were new faculty and they got the reviews back from their manuscript and they weren't so good. And they said, would you help me? I saw someone on campus last spring. I went over for a luncheon and she said, I still remember it. that first manuscript, and she just got inducted as a fellow herself this past fall. She's on a national stage with the WHO international. But she said, I remember when I asked you to help me with my manuscript, and I came, will send it to me, and then I start to work it and feedback, and and she said, I still was surprised by the amount of help what you really gave me. It's like, yeah. Because I like to do it. That was a big piece of it. I think it's from the cultural heritage and legacy. It's our job to help others. But I also think now, having some more not forethought. What do we say when what we know now, if we'd only known it then? What's that? Hindsight. Having hindsight. I also thought, yes, but I'm showing them how valuable I am, right? I'm showing them how valuable I am. And so I just kept on, whatever I could do. Thanks, HR4U, hindsight, yes. And, do more, build new programs, write all night. Like I posted a couple of weeks ago that I was in Las Vegas and I saw it for the first time at night. I had been in Las Vegas a lot. I've been all over the world. And I had never seen Las Vegas at night, because if I was there working at night, I was doing other kind of work like writing or grading or talking to students. So I never saw Las Vegas at night. What? It's something to see, guys. If you haven't seen it, it's something to see. But all of that trying to be fit in the box. But some ugliness happened, some real ugliness happened. So I got that job in 2014 because I kind of gotten up to here with it. I've been there almost 10 years, and I was like, well, the first 5 years I was there, I was always a finalist for someone else's job on another campus for 5 straight years. Someone else was always like, come here now. We put you through all the hoops. Oh, yeah, we want you, girl. Come here. And I'd be like, no, I am not doing that. I'm going to show them. They're not running me away. First of all, the weather is real good, and I came here for the weather. I did not come here for career. I used to say that. You need to know yourself, girl. Okay? I didn't come here for career. And in 2014, I was in the dean's office. They needed someone to lead that big new initiative, of course. None of us even knew about it, but my head of my school told the dean I was leaving. I had been recruited and finally taken a job at someplace in Pennsylvania, leading up their whole new graduate program. And they said, basically, you can't leave. We need you to stay. Here's a fabulous new job. Okay, I'm kind of out of my immediate environment where I was getting this woman who they had allowed. Well, that happened right my first year in the dean's office, but the stage for what happened my first year in the dean's office had been set while I was in the school. She took my concept paper for a big new idea. They didn't allow me to write the proposal to the government, and they gave me reasons why. She wrote the proposal. They said she won't be successful. Don't worry, Kat, she won't be successful, but we need to let her write it. This is why. And I said, oh, okay, of course they'll invite me on the team because it was my idea. They submitted it. They didn't invite me on the team. And the next fall, I'm in the dean's office, and we're at a meeting of what's called the Chairs Council, and I'm sitting there as assistant dean, and she announces that they got $1.2 million for my idea. Okay, that's the start of the real ugliness. It's like, what is up with you, girl? But let's go forward 4 years later, and a new person who had been under me, who I thought was a real good friend and colleague, decided they wanted to be dean. Something happened with our dean where she just didn't take a lot of stuff. She stood up in the middle of a school year, you don't do this. And she told them, I'm leaving in December. They needed a new dean, and we had to go through the whole 6-month search. We did it. The last two candidates from the outside asked me in different ways, why aren't you going for dean here? We've looked you up. You should be dean. And I said, no, 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 I don't want to be dean. This is why. I was associate dean instead of assistant by that time, but no, I don't want to be dean. I still do a lot of research and such, just like you. That's why I asked you that question. When you come into a deanship, you don't get to do your research like that anymore. How are you going to make that adjustment? And I said, I don't really want to make that adjustment. Those two people turned the job down. The internal person got offered it, and she decided I was a threat. And they invited me to leave my job with 10 days notice. But oh, not because you've done anything wrong. You've done such a fabulous job. Yes, I took something that was nothing, and now we had 400 students from 3 institutions and 5 colleges at this last thing that I just had. You've done such a good job, Kat, we don't need you anymore. They can't fire you. You're a tenured full professor. You've done nothing wrong. And at first, because I'm still trying to fit in the box, I believe that they were lying. Well, maybe I did do something wrong. They honored me that fall, and I didn't know they were honoring me, so I didn't show up. Because I was still in my, like, how could they remove me from this thing I love so much? And that I worked for these 4 years to make a fabulous thing, and that I was now going to move to the next stage of building the capacity of the faculty to take it over. But it's not ready yet. And they removed me. We're not firing you. We're doing away with your position. We're going to move the resources to something else. And about a year later, I'm out in this isolated campus where they now moved to School of Nursing to. That's one of the reasons they wanted me out of the dean's office. I was saying, you don't do this to this faculty and the students. You can't move them to this no man's land, no woman's land.
Right.
And that's where, if you all know the national thing, that terrible shooting in Virginia Beach happened. It's on the border of Virginia to North Carolina, basically, because we live in we live in this area. The land is vast, and our new school, quote unquote, campus wasn't a campus. It was a building. We couldn't even walk anywhere to get food. You had to drive to go get your food. I was now out there, and that same person who had taken my work and done a few other things like that in my years there came into my office the Monday after graduation. And she was yelling at me for something. I had reported something she'd done. And I stood up from my desk and I said, you're not going to stand over me and talk to me like that. This is not the Kat they know. And yeah, whoop, whoop, finally, how much does it take for somebody, right? But the head of the school came with her, which was shocking to me. And the head of the school hadn't said, Kimberly, we're coming to talk to you about this. So I'm like, kind of like you're supporting her. And she was like, no, I'm not. I just wanted to make sure to be here to see what transpired. And I started crying for 2 reasons. I had raised my voice, and I don't raise my voice at people. And I was frustrated by all the years of going through this kind of stuff. But I said to that person, see, this happened so-and-so because you've allowed her to do these things. We've lost a lot of faculty behind some of the things she does. But I said, but I was wrong. I raised my voice at her. So I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to apologize. I went to apologize. I see her across the room. She's not in her big private office. Only a few of us had big offices in private. She's in the cubicle with the graduate faculty. And I guess she went to tell them how I had done something to her. And I looked across the room and I said, so-and-so, I want to talk to you. I'd come to apologize. She cowered against the wall and said, oh, I'm afraid of her. I had worked so hard not to be seen as an aggressive person of color. Sometimes, because depending on who, people assume you're African-American because of how you look, but anyway, where you're Latina and your middle name is Bonita like me, it doesn't matter. They assume you're certain things So I never wanted to fall into those stereotypes. And she cowered. And two young faculty members, one who had been my major doctoral student who had gotten that job there, got around her. And I was so shocked. I said to the one, I said, so and so, you've never seen me be aggressive. You've never seen me. And she looked at me. She turned around because she wanted to be in. She looked around and she looked at me and she said, I've seen you angry, Kat. And I thought about this recently. I'm thinking I never showed anger. I remember what she was talking about. It was something that happened to the students, and I was at her home and she told me about it. And I got angry in the privacy of her home and said, I'm going to stand up for you all. And that's what she said, I've seen you angry. And then I started crying. I was crying loud. Staff person came out and was like, Kat, what's wrong? I sat down in the hallway. I see these other faculty people come out of this room where they're meeting, and then they back up. They look at me like they're concerned. And later I said to one of the older ones, I said, and you didn't even help me. You didn't help. And she said, oh, we wanted to, but so-and-so, the head of the school, told us to stay out of it. That day, I knew this is not the place for me. I am no longer in their box. I don't need them. Because when something would happen, I said, well, they don't have this kind of connection. Let me call so-and-so at UCLA and let me do this. Let me go to the international meeting where I'm a fellow and let me do this. Okay. That day, and I have never told this I told it to my cousin, who was a dean of engineering. She only stayed at that school 3 years. She was still there. I went to my office the day they told me the 10 days notice. And she came across in her golf cart. She's a queen. I walk across campus. She came across I said, come to my office now. She shut the door. My assistants were out there. She came inside. She said, what is it, hon? And I told her and I cried. But other than that, I didn't tell anyone. I mean, that day that was public, Monday after graduation in the school, but there's nobody out there but us, basically nursing folks on that side of the big building. They knew what happened, but no one, stood up or said, no, this is not the person who's helped us, who's been our mentor, who's coached us, who's given to this place, who's run 2 or 3 new programs. She's never hurt anybody or been mean or anything like that. She cowered against the wall and they went to her.
It just sounds like somebody playing the victim.
Absolutamente. Yes, absolutely.
That's just it. They figured out how to play the victim and get everybody to support them because they cried first.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
The first one to cry wins. That's almost what it sounds like.
Well, and I thought they didn't even know what she had done to me in my office, right? But
Right.
It didn't matter. It was just like, wait a minute, so-and-so, I got you through your doctoral program and got you a job here. You were at this other not so well recognized school and you told me you wanted a job. I went to the head. I talked to him. I said, she'll be a really good faculty. When we have a search, let's, call her and make sure she comes in and does the interview process and everything. And you stand over. She didn't even have to take my side or anything. She just needed to be like, oh, what's going on? Or, something.
Right.
But he said, I've seen you angry. I was like, huh? So, but I'm saying this, some of us could learn from that, could have learned along the way, could have done things differently. Whenever you would go somewhere else and they were like, oh my God, could you come here and do this? Would you do that? But I was like, no, I want to be in their box so badly. I want to fit in that I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to fit. They're going to really, truly accept me. Right.
Right.
Right. But once we get out of the box though, Susanna, I went to visit them last spring. I waltzed in there after a day at a big luncheon at the Virginia Beach, a country club. And I went by that campus and I walked around. I spoke to different people. I felt so free. I'm like, this is lovely for you all. Oh, I'm staring at my hair, Susanna, because I washed my hair last night because I want to look, pretty decent on your show. It's hormones or something. Look how this hair is so straight. I need what they are, curl activator or something. But anyway,
Squirrel.
hormones, before I got in perimenopause and menopause, I'm a women's health nurse practitioner by trade, if you all don't know that. Before, that those hormonal changes is just like being an adolescent. I couldn't get an afro if you paid me. And then my hair went curly. But you see something now, this side wants to be straighter, this side. But anyway, stop looking in the camera. That's not what this is about. Oh, that's too funny.
It's about everything. I mean, it's quite frankly, that is outside the box as well.
Yeah. Because we don't talk about those issues. We don't accept women at the different stages in their lives. We make assumptions. Thank you, H4U. You look great.
Jason is great.
Yeah, but getting out of the box, and I love this what you said. Helping us to learn how to get out. Susanna, how did you get out, or what are some of your strategies? Because I think I have a few I'd like to share too of how to get out.
Because when we're in that box, we don't have control. That's really one of the first things. There's no control when you're stuck. I mean, everything you said, everybody else is controlling you, or your fear is controlling you.
Yeah.
Because if you were in control, you wouldn't contort yourself to fit in. And that's the first thing when it comes to moving beyond the box, is understanding. It's not even understanding, because we can know everything. We can know we're in the box. We know we have to do, but we're not aware. Aware is what you need. You need your awareness ignited to be able to take the first step. One of the things I'll say is, if knowledge is half the battle, then awareness is the first step.
Yeah.
Because it's like, just take the saying, knowledge is half the battle, whatever. But
awareness is the first step.
Awareness is what you need to take that first step, because you should go for a walk. You shouldn't have that extra piece of cake. You should do, or you shouldn't do. Is that we know all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
But until you're aware and it sinks in that, and not necessarily that you have to do something, but that you can. So in this case, you're stuck in that box. The person that's controlling you. The situation that's controlling you. Your fear that's controlling you. All these different things. That person who says, this is what you're supposed to do. Your dad is controlling you.
Yeah.
Your family is controlling you. Society is controlling you, saying this is what they expect through stereotypes and just sticking you in a box because of X. Yeah. And the thing is, whoever puts you in that box, they stuck you there, and then they chose a subset of however far they go down to get what matches the narrative that they want to paint everybody in that box as. So whether it's race, whether it's LGBT, whether it's neurodiversity, it doesn't matter. You got a tattoo. Well, if you have a tattoo, this is what people with tattoos are like.
Yeah.
No, they're not. Everybody in that box is as diverse as the rest of the country. They go as far to the left, as far to the right, politically, ideologically, and everything else. And they may clump in spots, but they're not all the same. And many of them, they can say, yeah, maybe you could put me in that box. Now I'm one of those. It's like, you could stick me in that box. I don't belong in that box. It doesn't even begin to describe who I am. Screw it. I know where I belong. And really it's that awareness is what I needed. And then doors just started popping open. And I'll just throw it out there. It's like,
Yeah.
is my reinvention memoir.
Faith of the butterfly. I
And
love the
this
pink. I want pink for you today. I love the pink. But the
is my
faith of the
color.
butterfly.
It's like just like
Yeah.
CJ too, Constance Leland. It's like we're pink. We
Yeah.
need our pink. She's got this pink brick background. I now have the same one sitting over there. I just got to clean it up so I can put it behind me.
Ooh, ooh.
And it's like the first in real life. No, I have to take that back. It'll be my
Okay.
second in real life because I got to meet Janice with Tausi last year. But this year, my first in real life meeting with anybody will
Uh-huh.
happen on the way to Orlando. So I'm going to be in Orlando next week.
Oh, nice.
There's, there is Thursday is Amplified Healthcare. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. I
And
saw
then,
that on Raquel's show.
yep.
Mhm.
So Rocky's got that, and I think CJ is speaking there. So there's that, and then Podfest is the next few days. So
Oh,
we're
wow.
going for that. She called me up like in end of November. I think it was November even. She's like, "You want to go to Podfest with me?" And I'm thinking, okay, how do I make this work? How do I? And
Oh,
thinking about all the other things that can go wrong, and it's like, because for me, it's kind of like going into the lion's den in some ways, but it's the right thing because I talked to her before Christmas. It's like, okay, when are you going? So I know when to get there. I'm there when you show up, and I can leave when you leave.
have that support.
She tells me that.
Mhm.
I look it up that night. I can fly from Portland to San Diego and then get on the same plane as her in San Diego and go back to Orlando and then back on the same plane and the next day fly back to Portland.
Okay. I like it. Yeah.
Shit, this was
It's
meant to
perfect,
be.
right? Yeah.
And so it's gonna be CJ and Sandra Gonzalez is there too. And so I meet them both for the first time and then going to Orlando, it's like Sia's, if I understand right, Sia's gonna be there and
Oh,
Rocky and I mean there's a lot of people from LinkedIn
good. In IRL, in real life, I
in
like.
real life and not just onesie twosies. It's like there's a few people that are gonna be there.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking what you go hounds. Yeah. I was thinking about, what you said about getting out of the box. You said you talked about control, that you're really not in
Right,
control
exactly.
because you have the fear. The fear is there. And then you talked about that awareness regarding the fear. We all have it. We all have fear, and
Hmm.
there's a different. If we change our perception or reframe it, that we use fear to energize us, to propel us, instead of being an obstacle or paralyzing
Right,
us. Use fear to energize rather than paralyze. You know, um, and that awareness. And it's funny because I was really aware. Actually went through. Had been there a couple months. It's still September. Got there in very first of August, I think, very first day. But anyway, September, and I'm a little sad. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I can already tell that this is not the place. And this woman who had helped to recruit me, who was outside of my school, but in the college, came to my office, said, I'm just checking on you. And she said, I guess I was looking a little down in the tooth or something. But anyway, I felt, comfortable enough to be kind of sad. And she said, come on, I got some place. We're going someplace. I was like, what? Where are we going? Don't worry. Just come with me, girl. And she took me to the welcome back luncheon of the University Women's Caucus. And that became my lifeline. I said, oh my gosh, because, there's so much happening. Academe is very much male driven still, and there's so
Mhm.
much happening to women. And that became, a mission for me, a part of my mission. And I, did lots of things with them to the point I became a treasurer. I became the president of the organization, the past president. One of my things was to work to get lactation rooms on campus. And I was part of a group when I was president. We got that done. So I was hyper aware because there was evidence all around me. My daughter died. Maybe I would have gone. I think I might have gone if my daughter didn't die about 2 years after I got there. And, but my daughter died, and it was almost a year later, and I was talking to the head of the graduate program who had been part of recruiting me, but she had recruited the other woman the year before who was local, but the other woman had a great skill of writing grants to get money. I also, too, I had written all kinds of these, what we call training instead of research grants to HRSA instead of NIH, and I got a lot of money. And I also had all these foundation grants from foundations for these projects I had led on increasing access for the elderly, inner urban dwellers, and another group where I was. And but they said to me, you can't write. We only allow one person in the school to write a proposal during each round. I was like, oh, okay, well, no. I write them, the head of the department. But she didn't really write them. Her other person she recruited, who's now that does what she does to other people, she would write them because she was good at that. She's very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But you knew that I did this before I came. This is my juice. I write these programs for new things, and we get lots of money. It also gives me release time. I get paid during the summer, but I don't necessarily have to teach. It's a whole system. But no, you can't write them. And I said this to say, oh, my daughter died, and it's 10 months later. And I was saying, I'm not sure. I'm almost how I'm doing on the tenure track. You have to write so many publications. You have to do all these things.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I don't know how successful I'm going to be because, I've had hard last year. And she said, well, it's a shame you didn't take leave. I'm standing there. And I said, leave? What are you talking about? Well, you could have taken leave. It's in the faculty handbook. When something like this happens, you can take a year's leave. You don't tell me? And she says, oh, it's such a shame. It's too late now. There were 2 months left. I probably still, if I had been the right kind of person, but I didn't. But I decided then and there, I told people, I don't want anything like that to ever happen to anyone else.
No.
So one of my things in the Women's Caucus is teaching people, you need to be familiar. These are these different policies. This is where you find them, that kind of stuff. But I mean, imagine this young woman is under your department. Her daughter has died. She must be struggling despite of trying to appear like it and doing everything she's supposed to do. I think I took like 5 days off. And you don't tell her, well, you can pause. It's called pausing the tenure clock. You can get a pause in your tenure clock and you can be on leave. Your daughter died. No. She says what I'm saying, I don't know. I have tried real hard, but it's been hard. I was successful ultimately, of course, because I'm that overworker who will do anything I'm the superwoman, so I don't wear a cape. And I'm not saying there's a great thing to being a superwoman, people. But you don't let her know. But if she almost said it with a little glee, it's too bad you didn't do that. It's too late now. Huh?
Why is it that it seems like some of those who are actually the biggest offenders of hurting women are women?
Yeah.
I mean, I can look at some of these organizations that say they're there to protect and support women, and you join it, and then they start charging you for things that they never said they would. It's like, okay, wait a minute. You never said this. They're not going to play games. It's like,
Are you truly an advocate? Some are advocates like in their costume. You know, there's a guise of advocacy, right? But it's not really true, right? It's not really central.
It's they're advocates for their pocketbook. They're not advocates for those that really need the advocates.
So, you know, when I think about some tips for people getting out of the box, first is the fear issue. We're all fearful. It happens to all of us. It's a part of life. Use that fear. Use the fear to energize you rather than paralyze you. You say that sounds really easy, Kat. No, it's not. But for one example, we're talking about advocacy and support. Use the fear to help you to seek out a group or a tribe, as I call them, that can help you, that can support you.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're doing, like you have now with the hounds. Like when we met each other, then I said, do we want to form a tribe? And we formed our little LinkedIn tribe. Remember that I started because I believe in it. So the energizing you is to get you to get yourself some support, right? Then don't always assume if you were better, you'd be able to stay in this box. Seek information, and usually there's a lot of evidence that you're good. Not that we can't grow. I love to learn. I love to grow. I've changed so much in these last 2 years of entrepreneurship, getting paid for what I used to give out for free.
Mm-hmm.
But don't assume you need to always be in continual improvement, right? Don't assume it's always you. And then save. Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. A special place for women who do that. Yeah. So there's things like creating your own tribe or seeking a tribe like the Women's Caucus for me. I think coming up soon, I'm going to institute something. I went to this organization that does what they call lean-in circles for women, and I'm going to set up my own circle. It's going to be a support group type thing, an advocacy for women. No charge, but I want to do that. So seek something like that. And then if you want to move out of the box, talk to others who have done it. Put yourself in places like this to learn from others who've done it. Share your story as you're doing it, because someone will say, well, that worked great for me. Or here's something else I did. And I want to say this to a lot of folks. This is not just for women, but and because there are men it happens to also. But this is a book that was written for women, and it's like become my Bible. It's been out about a year. It's written by faculty women, for faculty women, but the principles apply. The No Club, putting a stop to women's dead-end work. Say no. Say no to things that are not aligned with your passions, with your goals, with your own agenda. Don't always take up someone else's agenda. Advance yours at some point also. Thank you. Because we all going to get out of the box and we're going to stay out of the box. They used to talk about me because I used to put on music. I'm a dancer and a singer. And I would sneak, even undergrad, I sneak away and take music classes and stuff because it was not of the major curricula in nursing. That kind of stuff. I danced, like I was kind of hidden dancer in the community, and someone at the university saw me dancing on the opera house stage. Be you, people. You remember what my framework is. Do you, be you, promote you. Thanks, Nicole.
And I'll add one little piece to the fear that you talked about, because part of that awareness is understanding that fear is it's trying to survive itself, and so it's also a very good liar.
Ooh,
because when I talk about boxes are not solid. There's cracks in the box, and you can look out, which is why fear is doing everything it can to keep you in the box from looking out. But it knows it won't always work, so it uses its lies. You have to understand that it's like, take it with a grain of salt, because fear will weave a translucent web of lies with grain of truth. And the whole idea is when you look out the box, the translucency will fuzz everything else. And you will only see the grain of truth that will drag you back. That's the whole idea. So if you do this, this is going to happen. And you see that it could happen. And that's all you see. Everything else is a blur. So understanding that it is going to lie, and you really have to find that way to penetrate and see the truth that, yes, that's true. It's scary as shit. But look at all this other stuff, and it's positive.
Oh, that gives me chills. I love that. And I'm gonna ask. I want to DM you and because there's something you said. I want to just like hear it again and capitalize it. And two, also when you said that, fear, it tells lies. That's why I say look for evidence. Look for the other evidence.
Exactly.
That fear is lying to you. Okay.
Fear has value, but you have to understand that you can't always take that value at face value. A bear comes charging at you, yeah, that's fear. Take it at face value and do what you have to do.
Yeah, you might want to, but there's a certain way you want to move away from that bear too. So
I mean, it's like my trip that's coming up. Fear is telling me a whole lot of shit.
Yeah.
But then when I look at the truth, it's number one, I'm going with safe people. So
yeah. I love it. Susanna, I tell you, I can't even say it. I just have enjoyed this time. Hi, Dr. New. So thank you. It's so good to see you. I have just enjoyed it because so many of us have been in boxes for many different reasons in our lives. And our experience, as I tell people when someone dies in their family, I can't tell, I don't know what to say.
Right.
Because I have learned that each experience with death is unique. Yet, there are some commonalities. So each experience with it being in the box and why we're in the box is unique. Yet there are some commonalities that we can all collectively glean around to drive us forward and out of the box to help us all get out.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And we're overtime, but I've gotten used to it. Conversation is like,
it went so fast.
It does go fast, especially when it's just such an interactive conversation like this was. So I'm so glad and got to hear some golden nugget from you throughout the conversation, but especially at the end when you started focusing on fear, because that is an important thing that we need to understand. That I get it. I get the people who are like, it's there for a reason. We need it. Well, yes, but, and if I use the word but, I understand that word means you've negated everything before it. Otherwise, I will say however.
However, right.
I will use however yet, so that I don't negate what I just said, but it throws it out the window. And in this case, fear is one of those things that you can't take at face value. You really need to understand what is going on and be able to read between the lines with it, because it has a purpose to survive, and sometimes that survival is to be our only companion in the box.
Yes. And and we've lived with it so long. And now I think about it, being a awkward, shy, very introverted. I've trained myself to appear extroverted. But girl, I was fearful. And they used to say this, my family, they were like, tough luck, get yourself together, girl. And they would say, she's so shy or she's so timid. If you look at her hard enough, she's going to cry. So, but it's my friend. And you're absolutely right. It's been there all along. It's my friend. And at certain times, I did not look for the other evidence. I let it
Right.
lie to me and believed it too much. And that's what kept me in the box.
Yep. Yeah. You can, again, you can know, you can see the signs, but until you're aware, you can't take the first step.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. I'm going to wrap it up because we'll just keep going otherwise. I know we will. It's just how it goes. So thank you everybody for being here. I know I won't be here next week because at this point I'll be on a plane.
I love it.
So
I
yeah, it's going to be an amazing week next week. Um, but I'm so happy for everybody who showed up, and we had amazing people that have been here, some that I'm not wasn't familiar with, and others that's like sisters, and it's just wonderful. And I'm excited because I do get to talk with Jason tomorrow for the first time, so that's going to be fun
really
with
nice.
for you. So
Okay. Okay.
with that, thank you everybody, and I
Thank
will call it good. Bye.